Hey everybody, we just got talking video games. Johnny was here with us, so we were glad to have him. And we talked some video games, including some of the nominees for Video Game of the Year. But we had Johnny here, and he suggested he's a big fan of bonus stuff. He's probably our biggest fan. So he
Aw.
suggested that we watch a doc on YouTube that's called The Dark Sad Life of Boogie2988. And I guess everyone's talking about this. So um Johnny suggested we talk about it. So we did. And we thought we'd bring Johnny on to talk about it too, since he subjected us to this. So um so just a little background. Boogie2988 is the screen name of a YouTuber. As he says, he's one of the first YouTubers. In this doc, it's by what's his Mike Klum is his name. So basically this doc is about kind of the downfall of Boogie298 because he's been in a ton of controversy lately, and he's seen his subscriber count just tank. So that's this doc kind of explains what's been going on with him and his lifestyle, and it's not pretty, guys. So my background with this is Johnny brought this up. I didn't know who this was, but then I was watching this, and it gets to that point where he like shoots a gun off at his house, and I'm like, oh, I've heard of this guy. And then they get to the boxing match, and I'm like, yeah, I have heard of this guy. So I put the face to the news that I've been hearing. So Jared, he's kind of our reporter on YouTubers acting badly because he's been watching these docs and then just reporting back to us and being like, yeah, it's scary out there, guys. You don't want to
YouTubers are bad people, not us
They're just-
though.
Yeah, we're real nice.
I'm terrible.
Yet.
They're gonna clip that when I do something wrong.
Remember when Johnny was pure?
So Jared, you watched this before us, I think.
Yeah,
It's definitely before me and Michael.
I just watched
Have
it
you
about 2
heard
hours
of
ago.
Boogie before?
Yeah. So I've watched it because Charlie had a video, and whenever Charlie talks about something, you kind of just like he clues you in, and he's like, he's the first person to be like, "Oh, this person's bad," or like, "This person messed up." But he had a video on it, and I knew there was some controversy. He's been going down for a while now. Like even the guy I watched, Turkey Tom, had a video about him earlier. But my experience with him was those old videos where he was his character. I forget his name
Francis.
for it. Yeah, where
Forgot
he
about
was
that.
like he would just get like mad and like he broke his Xbox. That was my introduction to him. He was always adjacent to me. I didn't watch his content. Like I didn't go out to seek his content,
No.
but all the people I watched would talk about him because to them he was such a nice guy back then. He was like one of the nicest YouTubers back then. Like everyone was like, that guy is a saint basically back then. And then more and more came out about him recently. About how like just he's not a good guy. He's done a lot of shady things, and just like, I mean, if you've seen this documentary, it goes into it. But yeah, he was one of the biggest YouTubers, and then he just decided to do his own thing and just like drop off. I do like this documentary. It was very well done. I'll let someone else talk about their experience with Boogie if they have any, but that's my experiences. It was always adjacent to me.
Mine's pretty much the exact same. Like I kind of grew up on the internet pretty young, I guess. And by young, I mean I was around like the early 2000s, or not early 2000s, like 2000 to 2010. And I think that's when YouTube started becoming more and more of a big deal. I know Boogie was like one of the first like bigger YouTubers to have come to play. Wasn't really big onto his humor. I know a lot of people who would like come up to me in school and be like, "Hey, look at this video. This guy's like blending Doritos and Mountain Dew together and eating it and stuff like that." But I would see stuff like you said, which kind of threw me off. We watched this documentary, but I do remember hearing like some of the YouTubers that I had watched back then being like, "Oh yeah, Boogie's so awesome. He's so funny. He's such a good guy. I love to be around this guy. Go give him a watch," or something like that. And then you, throughout the years, we start to see like his like not fandom, because I didn't really keep in touch with that kind of like his like YouTube channel, but you start seeing the drop off of him
The
in
literal
people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and that's pretty much all I had from knowing this guy before, was Francis and the like Mountain Dew Dorito stuff.
And Michael, I take it you have never heard of Boogie.
I actually did know Boogie.
Oh,
really?
I never watched any of his stuff. Like I'm basically the same as you guys. Like I knew him. I remember when he won that Trending Gamer of the Year award, or whatever it was. But yeah, just knowing him from like early YouTube stuff of just the weird two characters. That was never my thing. Was the like falsified, extreme other version character. I was like, okay, that's interesting, but I'm never gonna actually, like Jared said, seek that out. Hadn't heard of him, hadn't heard from him or anything of him in a while. I thought, oh, maybe he just didn't think twice about it. I was like, in my head, he's just, retired, whatever, didn't do anything, was on YouTube, just living his life. But then you guys brought up this documentary. I was like, oh, I haven't heard that name in ages. What happened? He was like, oh no, he's like broken in a really hard time. I was like, oh Jesus. And then you watch this and you're like, oh Jesus. So, just kind of went downhill really fast. Yeah, just top level thoughts of this thing was just, it's difficult to be sympathetic in the sense. This man made all of his own choices. He talks about, he's like, I want to get better. I want to do this. And there's that one point, even after like near the end, he wakes up and the first thing he does is take a drink of Mountain Dew. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're making your own bed. You're making your own choices. And yeah, we'll just get into it. But
he's also a bath man, so you can't trust that. He takes baths.
A lot of bathmen with interesting accessories in the bath. But yeah.
Just first impressions overall. Jared said that he thought this documentary was filmed pretty well. What do you think?
I agree with that. I think especially for the guy, it said in the end, he's like, and this guy, meaning him, did not get paid for this, because he's just, he's like building his channel. And it was interesting him talking about, midway through, like, I don't want to be labeled as, like this type of documentary guy. I want to make my own things and make my own channel and grow that way. So I thought that was interesting and well done on his part by himself, basically, seemingly. I mean, it seemed in the credits he had, second cameraman and everything working with him, but
yeah,
small crew. I thought they did a really good job.
This was his first documentary ever.
Oh wow!
Or
really?
His first thing.
I was going to look at his channel and see what else he did. But
so,
yeah, very impressive. The first one for sure.
I think. Okay, so I don't know if I should say this now or not, but after I watched this doc, these other guys I follow, I saw that they were talking about this doc. So I went to their channel, and you got to understand, these people do 6-hour long live streams. So I've watched like 7 hours of Boogie yesterday. So I am pretty boogied out. But it was interesting because they brought someone who knew Boogie, who was a friend of Boogie, on the show to talk about it. So that was really interesting to get some further insights. It turns out that the numbers that they list in this documentary are kind of fudged. I mean, it's take the fight numbers they give you, where he's like, oh, I had to spend 10,000 just for the fight. Well, it turns out the people who organized the fight, they flew him there. They actually gave him an MRI.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, they put him in a hotel. So that 10,000 figure is just not correct at all. He actually had people pay for that. And another thing they pointed out was he actually has a lot of cash. He just has to liquidate it. I mean, his house is they lowball his house because everyone knows house prices are huge
That
now.
house is huge too.
And that house is
You
huge.
sit on the
Yeah.
outside, like,
So,
okay, that's definitely decent size and not.
so he has decent equity into that house. And then they just point out that all this stuff he has as his collections, he could sell that pretty easily. And he's got a lot of stuff that's actually pretty valuable. And then they pointed out that he has like $30,000 in Bitcoin or something like that. So he could just sell that. And they're like, why don't you just sell that and pay a mortgage? But yeah, so it was interesting to get some further information on this because they did have, I watched like an hour long one, but they had like this bonus cut where there was extra stuff in it. So the extra stuff isn't very important, I would say, to this documentary. It's got stuff like him going to a dating service and this lady kind of like trying to help him, but he's not having it at all. He's just very just snood to her and like not very helpful at all. So I don't think the bonus stuff actually helps a lot, but I do agree that as a first documentary, it looks good, and the way he presents it's good. I don't know. He kind of gets into where, as a documentary, you would like the person shooting it not to be involved at all. But there is that one point where he's like, I can't do this. This guy's too negative. Well, I don't think that's too bad, but I don't know if we needed that input from him. Maybe set that aside for a separate video or something like that. But yeah, the quality of it was good. I think.
Yeah. I think when you bring up the liquidation stuff and all the stuff he has in equity, one of the scenes, and I mean, are we going to just like when we're going to talk about it is the scene where he's doing his budget, and he's saying like I have to buy these 4 games that are like $200 and all this stuff when he has a row of arcade cabinets behind him.
Yeah.
Is just hilarious.
I mean, just the simplest thing of just the house. Like, I get in his mindset the reasoning he doesn't want to seem to the people around him that he's broke and lost it. Like he says that a couple times in the thing, but it's like that house you could downsize
exactly.
it easily and you're fine. Like,
And
you could pay off something
apparently
small.
there's like 2 people living with him in that house. So it's like, can't they pay a little rent or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, it's true. Just get like roommates if you need
Yeah.
actually that much out. If he does, who knows? But
Yeah. So how do you guys want to do this? You just want to kind of pick it apart? I mean, it kind of introduces him. He's in real poor health. We know that, and that's probably because he's overweight. He's so overweight.
Starts off with one of the worst terms I've ever heard before, with his meat curtains.
Oh yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that shows
that
started
pretty
exactly
interesting because I was like, oh, he's not that bad, and then he shows you that, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's more.
But wait, there's more.
Because I said that he had 200 pounds taken out from him. Like,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Gastro bypass.
Yeah, bypass, there you go. Like that's
But like
insane.
a lot of people pointed out, that surgery does not work for you unless you do the diet with it. It's not like, I mean, it takes it off, but if you're not doing anything, it's just going to go right back in. So
that's one of his biggest controversies because his whole career, he's been trying to lose weight and people have encouraged him, but he always relapses and he's always just telling himself that his life is just this, even though he's had all these opportunities, like being the biggest YouTuber and just people supporting him, but he never puts in the actual work.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, at that point, whenever you're at your biggest, just hire a chef, take the choice out of it, have them feed you. Like, that's your only choice.
Because they do, like, they show, like, the guys I was watching, they were showing his fridge, and he's like, well, yeah, we make meals like once a day or something like. And they're like, no, you have no groceries in there. It's all takeout. And then with the Mountain Dews, he's drinking Mountain Dews every minute.
Every time he gets like any kind of money in this documentary, he gets like Taco Bell or he gets like McDonald's or something like that. I like how he always has to get a meal with whatever money he gets.
That is interesting because it's like, I wonder how much of that is the mindset of being able to do whatever you want whenever you want with how much money he probably had. Like that's such an interesting seesaw of like to me, like growing up, slowly getting more financially stable and everything. It's like I know the times of whenever like that $20 means $20 to me. Like whenever to him, whenever he hits his highest point ever, it's like, what does that even matter or mean? He just does whatever he wants. So gradually going back down to this, to the point where he's like, he gets money. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go eat because that's what I do. Like it's a weird mental game. This whole documentary puts into play, and it's so interesting. Like you were talking about how it started, and like it starts off so hard. Like it's just like in your face, blank, and he says what he says, and you're just like there's no sympathy from the start, really. Like you just he like from the first words he says, you're like, oh no, you're kind of just, this is you and you're choosing this in a sense.
Yeah.
It's rough, man. It was a rough documentary, but not in like the normal rough sense of like where you're like, oh man, your heart feels heavy or feel weighted down, like, oh man, feel pity. But it's just like, man, it's just,
I
don't know, watch this yourself. Like go watch this after it's done for him to watch it. But like look, this is you. Like
would you want to be this person?
That's it. And it's so interesting because it's like I don't see any sense or semblance of him actually wanting to really get better in that sense. Like especially that the one of the most poignant points for that for me was the job interview where he's going in to try and get that thing, and that lady saw through him so much. Like you could just see the look in her eye, and she's like, this is all I'm hearing, and this and this, and he's like, oh, but I have this, and you're just like you can tell that she's dealt with so many people like that, but in his business.
And immediately he comes out and he's like, I'm not getting a job.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just gonna be doing this. Man, it's interesting for sure, but
it's crazy because like I mean, like honestly, I think my first things were, I know you said it's like square on the nose, and like the immediate first, I guess, from knowing Boogie and stuff like that, and I guess I had kind of missed the part where he started falling down in my lifetime, because I'd see his tweets and stuff and people like shouting him out and stuff like that. So I was kind of like, oh dang, man, what happened to him? This is kind of sad. And then you immediately start seeing it, like right after, I guess, the meat curtains incident, and it goes from like, I guess, like a small little sympathy towards him, and then it goes into like the sex work, and then it goes into like like the sex worker stuff, and then it goes into like his financials with his friends, and then like, and then him trying to get a job, and then like what I really like about this documentary is that that's when he he says like, hey, I'm done doing this, I don't want to be I'm gonna be a YouTuber and whatnot, and where that guy the director is like what you were talking about, Joseph, when he's like this is too depressing and I can't just be around this negativity. And then he calls him up and he's like, I'm not doing this. I'm going to keep doing my YouTube stuff. And then it cuts off, and then he gets a girlfriend, and
it's even worse.
it's like his boost of serotonin only, but for nobody else. It's like his redemption for himself, but everyone around him knows this is awful.
It's like that, unhealthy is just the main word that comes to mind when when that part came up. I was like, oh my gosh. And
I think that comes to mind from this entire documentary.
True, but I mean, like that relationship, it's just like, holy cow, dude. Like, you can tell that and especially even the documentary guy, obviously gonna ask about her family when she's like, yeah, not having a dad figure around, it's nice to have the stability and the structure. She kept using those words, stability and structure, stability and structure. I'm like, do you not see who you are being around right now? That's the lack and absolute opposite of stability and structure right now. These bad choices. This is all this guy's making in this video. I think that was the roughest point of the video for me, was when she started like being around, like moving in for 3 months. They're talking about being married, and that like first interview, I'm like, holy cow, that was a lot for sure.
The comedy club was actually pretty funny.
I mean, it's like
What do you expect?
you sat in the front row of a comedy
Yeah.
club. Like that's exactly like I watched a couple actual stand-up comedies recently and just Instagram videos, and I'm like, that is the splash zone. What do you expect? That is- I don't know.
Yeah, the guys I were watching was pointing out that like he's up there because he likes the intent.
Oh yeah.
He likes, even if it's negative attention, he just feeds off of it. And so the comic's kind of attacking the girl he's with, but he doesn't see that. He just seeing that, oh, I'm getting all this attention.
Mhm.
And yeah, he's not shielding her from anything because like they said, he didn't have to tell the comic that she was 19.
Yeah, it's
She's
like-
just he did that because I don't know, you can kind of tell that everything is an act to him. It's kind of hard to figure out like where his real self is. Because when it starts, you're like, oh, okay, this guy's just dealing with overweight, he's battling with that. But then it goes into like I guess he dropped some racist terms on his channel or something like that.
And
So that's really
unabashedly, like he talks about, he's like, yeah, if the camera was off, I'd be throwing that word around all the time. And I'm like, oh, normally people, try to pretend like they're not saying that.
Yeah.
But he's just unabashedly like, oh yeah, I find it funny. And I'm like, no.
I think it was really funny. His friends were the ones that were like, "Yeah, he's pretty terrible. He's a terrible person." Like the people he was playing like Magic with.
that was a
that was an
hard part
awkward
too.
part, man.
That was just
Yeah.
straight
It seems
awkwardness.
so like, I don't know. I'm like, are you paying them to be there? I don't. They just seem like very few of them actually seem genuinely to be having a good
Yeah,
time.
and he's like, "Oh, I buy meals for you guys," and they're like, "We never asked you to buy meals."
I understand that he said that plenty of them have like autism and stuff. So I understand that awkwardness comes on, and also like interviewing like that, but also just seemed like they just weren't comfortable there. I'm like, man, this is strange.
And then he's kind of like putting them down because he's like, "How come we don't bring
I know.
girls
I was like,
around
what is this
here?"
about? Why are you attacking them?
Yeah,
Leave these
it's
poor
like-
guys alone. They didn't ask for this documentary.
Yeah, and then he goes to the card shop, tries to sell some cards. That guy was kind of awkward too. The guy in the shop, because he's like, I don't know, that guy was kind of weird. It was just a weird scene for me because
He's just like, "Yeah, I'll take those two.
yeah.
Do you want to look at anything else? Nah."
kind of laughing at him too. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah, those aren't worth nothing."
Oh man.
It goes to the escort stuff. Again, the numbers on the escort stuff's kind of weird. Is he says he paid $2,000 on it,
200,000.
200,000, but it turns out that he actually paid for one of the escort's kids to go to college.
Huh.
So I don't know if they're adding that into it or not. But that's even. I mean, this guy, he's constantly saying like he deserves stuff. Like, they
Yeah, that
point
was
out,
weird. That made me
Yeah.
really uncomfortable when he was talking about women and like I
Yeah.
deserve to be with models. I'm like, huh? Excuse me?
I know, it's like,
why?
why?
Where do you get that from? That was a very interesting.
I guess because he
Strange
thinks
point.
he's rich or something like that, so he's got
Because he's an original YouTuber, one of the biggest ones, Joseph.
That doesn't mean anything to anyone. What else? I think it's kind of into that boxing match that happened. That wasn't too long ago. I remember when that was happening. And he's boxing this other YouTuber. And it turns out that none of their lives got any better after that. Him or the other guy.
Oh, really? What was the other guy? I'm assuming a YouTuber or
Yeah, his
Yeah.
name's Wings.
Well, it's part of the creator clash, so it's always YouTubers fighting other
oh,
YouTubers.
I was assuming that's what
Like-
it was, but I didn't
Like
see it.
Aaron Hansen was practicing for it at one point, and then of course you have like Jake Paul, was the main, like he started it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little confused on the if that was that or not, but I didn't realize. Yeah, because I know Chris Ray Gun did that whole thing, and I feel like they paid for basically most, like you were saying earlier, Joseph. They paid for a lot of it. I'm like, that's why I was confused. I was like, I feel like they would pay you to be flown out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
interesting stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about the job interview?
Yeah, a little bit, not much. But I just
Yeah.
talk about how she basically instantly saw through him, and just how you just seeing his kind of like not really wanting to be better or get better. He's just like, yeah, it's just
Setting himself up for failure.
like we keep saying, yeah, just that kind of like like narcissistic, pitying, attention seeking, just wanting it to be.
It was that that
so
check mark,
interesting.
that check mark scene where that
Yeah,
that
all of that.
psychologist is like
Oh yeah.
checking off all the stuff, or was it something narcissism?
Yeah.
Narcissism?
What did they covert
Something like that,
narcissism?
yeah.
Covert narcissism. And but yeah, like I don't know, it's just it's that this whole thing was just very uncomfortable. Like
Mhm.
when it, you know, it gets into the escort service acts and stuff, and like them bringing in one of his previous
Oh, I know.
Oh yeah,
escorts,
the interview.
and just the way he presents himself, like you guys said, of saying, you know, I deserve this stuff for just putting out like little YouTube videos,
Yeah,
and how he like thinks of women in general.
yeah, that
like,
was really messed up.
yeah, like him being on like a dating site and being like, oh yeah, she's kind of big. I don't know. It's like, dude, look at, like, you know,
I know.
Like, you think you deserve like top models for what? Like, I don't get where that comes from.
to treat like meat, you know.
Yeah,
It's
and then that's how he's talking.
it's
He's like, I deserve to be with him once and just F him. And I'm like, holy, that mindset is very, very, very wrong.
Yeah.
it's just
Well, did you guys talk about the shaman
Not
Not
yet.
no,
yet.
not yet.
That's the end. Yeah.
and how that was his last shot? I'm like, you didn't try anything. What are you talking about?
No.
Your
He
last
wants it to be
shot.
done for him. That's why. But
Just shows his little crock next to the fire.
do any of you know, was he married before he got big on YouTube, or did they get married
It's like-
after?
It was like mid.
Oh, okay, so I
During
was
it?
curious if
Yeah.
his wife was like there from before and he just ditched her after.
Like she was there for the Francis stuff,
Okay,
like the
Yeah.
beginning stuff.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, and then because he bought the house with her
Mhm.
because that's like the house she wanted, so he was making money at that time. Yeah, so it ends. The ending's probably the worst part. I thought it was just
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go get better, so I'm gonna take shrooms, and that's gonna make me better. And he's kind of like, I'm having this religious experience, and it's like, no, you're not, man. You're just tripping.
Yeah, and then he wakes up and drinks his Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Is it-
Well,
or-
drink the Mountain Dew, yeah.
Yeah, so like I was saying, it's hard to get any authenticity from this guy. You don't know. He doesn't seem like he wants to change. He seems like he was using this like to get more subscribers, get more
Yeah.
views. This is
Yeah.
just a part of the plan kind of thing. Because he really doesn't have any choice. I mean, he still has a ton of subscribers for all the stuff he's done. I don't know. Do you guys, anything else you guys can think about or want to say about this?
Not at the moment. I'd like I guess you're going to talk about it soon, Michael, about the documentary
Oh,
you
yeah,
watched
yeah.
with Daniel
I watched
Radcliffe.
a very, very different documentary that I'll bring up in a
Yeah.
minute. But
And this is the complete opposite of that, which is, this is just like, you see this man. I was expecting some sort of like outcome of realization for him, but it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's just that we're left standing, and like you said, you know, he might get a few new subscribers and stuff that have watched this, and I feel like they're kind of those people who probably doom scroll in the morning and want to see what's going on with this guy and why is he so effed up, and is he going to continue to be effed up, and then he's probably going to go back down, because
yeah,
I feel like
understandable.
his time on YouTube is pretty much gone. You know,
Yeah.
it's nobody is into that sort of entertainment or that comedy. It's a very select few nowadays. I mean, like, I just from my experience, you know, I went from watching, you know, skits and hilarious stuff, and now I just watch like documentaries on YouTube.
Mhm.
You know, and it's just people who grew up with him. Now they're just watching something else. So it's either adapt and survive, or, you know, stay
Yeah.
in behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like even if he hadn't been, taken down by all of the controversial things he was saying and doing. It's like you still very, very much, like you said, have to adapt and change. You can't be doing the same thing. Like I feel like he would have gone down no matter what, because he just kept doing, from what I know, I don't know too much, but just like you said, the same character. Like you see like someone huge in that same arena, like someone like PewDiePie. PewDiePie is completely changed from what he used to do. Anytime I like
Mhm.
see a video pop up on my timeline, because I don't really watch him either, but I saw a video where he just did like of his new office and talk about like his setup and everything, and then I went into like a couple of videos been doing. Like, oh yeah, it's very just like you said, adapt and change, and you just feel like you doing the
Yeah.
same angry videos is very, very
Yeah.
early 2000s or mid 2000s, whatever.
Yeah.
How do you refer to the 2000s that aren't teens or 20s? Like
The
aughts. There you go.
The
Yeah.
Nazis.
It's kind of like, what do you even do with this information? Because if he was like receptive to change, then you could say, okay, you need to lose weight. You got to get a trainer. I mean, like Michael said, you need a chef. You need someone cooking for you. You can sell all this stuff. You can downsize your house. You can go maybe change your channel a little so it's not like what it was. I mean, that's going to be his hardest part, is what does he come up with for a channel? But
You don't have to do much. Like honestly, you just go on Twitch, stream video games, talk about the video games. Don't really like broaden yourself to harm yourself. If you're going to be saying like things that are going to result in negative, a decline in your what you want to do. I like what I say is, if you want to be a streamer, then stream. Just get out there, do it, make things look good, make it look presentable, or whatever looks to you, then that's awesome. But it seems like he knew his peak and stayed at but that peak went down while others peaked in different ways, and it just keeps going in a different direction. But yeah, that's how I feel on what he should do. Is just like stream your stuff, be at least positive or even informative. If you're gonna do the comedy act, stick with comedy. If you're gonna do video games, stick with the video games. I don't know. It's one of those things that like maybe that's why this documentary is around, for us to talk like it and try to figure him out, because that's what's, like you said, it was kind of the lowest, weakest point of this documentary, is that it didn't have that resolve for us, and we're like, what can he do?
There's no growth from him whatsoever, or change.
No.
Just the same thing. And I was confused because you were talking about the streaming thing, and when he was talking about the girl that he was with, and he was like, yeah, I want to be able to get back to doing 6-hour streams on Twitch. I'm like, what's stopping you?
Like, yeah, I know.
You don't.
What are you doing?
Like, what is stopping you from actually streaming every day? I didn't understand that bit, because he was talking about, he was like, yeah, I want to make my YouTube videos and I want to start streaming 6 hours a day. I want to be able to do that. I'm like, nothing's stopping you. Like, you literally have all the tools to do it. So I don't know. I was a little confused on that, but yeah, it's just kind of it starts where it ends, and it's not really going anywhere with that. So interesting, but yeah. But I got
any last words, guys, on Boogie?
No. Hope he gets better.
Yeah.
Gotta make some changes. Okay. So good.
I was gonna say, and I hope something good happens to his girlfriend.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Hopefully she gets better as well.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully people who are on YouTube see this and say, like, I can't become that. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully, use YouTube in more positive sense. Use it to help people. Use it, and then if you're lucky enough to make money, because he says in the documentary, I'm the luckiest guy. I get to make money doing this. I have the best job. Be wise with your finances. He could have put stuff away. I mean, he tried with the crypto stuff, but that stuff's not secure. But he could have put stuff in savings and could live off that. I mean, he's almost 50, right? So,
and he was making at like that before it started declining, like 2018, he made like $500,000 that year. It's like, That's a lot of money.
Put a savings account together or something. So maybe just learn from his mistakes if he's not going to learn from his mistakes. But yeah, good discussion. We'll be on the lookout for more docs that we could talk about. But we usually use the last part of the show to talk about what we're doing. I only watched one thing, so and I know Jared watched it, so I'll talk about that. Saw Blue Beetle
Oh,
from
nice.
DC.
Mhm.
It was all right. It's perfectly cast. I mean, that guy just was born to play Blue Beetle. The story wasn't the strongest. The sister was super annoying. I wish they didn't have the sister. But
I remember
this
the sister.
movie, I mean, Blue Beetle works the best on teams. He's not a real solo character, but he works good when he's like in Young Justice or Teen
Yeah.
Titans. But I was super glad that they referenced the old Beatles because I'm a big fan of Ted Cord because that's who was Blue Beetle when I was around. And it would this movie would have been just like heaven for me if they would have had a team up between Ted Cord and Jaime. I mean, I don't know if they've ever done that in anything I've seen, but to have the two Blue Beetles, like, if they could have, even if they didn't want like Ted Cord the whole time, but that part where the family's kind of trying to save Jaime from when he's captured, just replace them with Ted Cord and just have like, okay, I got to suit up one more time to save Jaime. I mean, I would have loved that. That would have just been over the top for me, but not a bad movie for DC. It was fun. I thought it was fun. And I kind of like the neon Miami they were. Me and Joe were laughing because the dad's like, "Oh, I can't sleep tonight," and it's like, "Cause the stupid neon's so bright,
It's
man.
everywhere."
It's like day." But yeah, it was pretty fun. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, I liked it. It was fun. Kind of felt like more Cobra Kai just because of that kid and like
Oh, I know when he's at the headquarters, Ted Cord Industries or whatever. Me and Jonah are like, "Don't get by the stairs. There's so many stairs in this place."
yeah. I really liked George Lopez. He was a good, like, he played Hispanic uncle well.
Yeah,
The perfect
Yeah.
Tio.
Yeah.
with the shorts and everything.
Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't the best like superhero movie. It felt like I was saying, it looks like older superhero movies, like from like
Yeah,
Ghost
Like-
Ghost Rider days or stuff like that.
Mhm.
Before the whole MCU, it was kind of like that. But I enjoyed it. I did. There's a lot of references in it, like
Yeah.
Final Fantasy and just like stuff like that. But I enjoyed it. Yeah.
the OMAC. I kind of wish they would have got closer to the OMAC style, which is like a big red eye. They kind of did that, but it looked too much like I don't know, like a video game character.
Halo?
Yeah, something.
Or
It looked-
Destiny, something like that.
yeah, it looked like a video game character. But yeah.
Did you see the after credit scene?
No, was there one?
Yeah, it talks about Ted Cord coming back.
Yeah, he's on the radio and he's like, "Ted Cord's alive."
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'll get a sequel, but it'd be nice to see both Beatles on.
I would love for a sequel, but I don't think it did that well
No,
to
Yeah.
be one.
it'd have to be
Hopefully
straight to streaming or something.
hopefully Snyder includes him into like something. So with the DC universe. But yeah, I understand what you mean. Like I would love to see another Blue Beetle, but we'll see.
Probably not.
Probably
don't hold your breath for that one. But all right, well, I was going to ask Jared what else he watched, but he left, so
He doesn't want to tell you.
he doesn't want to say. So, Michael, do you want to tell us what you were doing?
Sure. So had quite a few. I had like 4 things, but they're like big chunks. First thing I watched was Matt Rife. Actually, he's a comedian. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
What's his name?
Matt Rife.
Yeah, right. Okay.
He does a lot of his Instagram stuff is like crowd work and stuff, but
He's very handsome.
it's like as Java God, and you're like, holy cow. But I've been following for a while just on Instagram, and I guess he's only recently gotten big. He did his first, I guess he has 2 specials out on YouTube that he self-produced, but then this year he did one actually with Netflix. So I watched that on Wednesday, I believe. It's good. Not as good as his last one, in my opinion. I feel like last one was a little more free flow and kind of his own thing. This one felt a little structured. The beginning, I feel like it took a minute to get going. Hold on, I gotta yell at my dog. Hattie, no ma'am, stop. It's good. I feel like it took a minute to get going. It kind of had a slower start, and the jokes weren't hitting as well. But then it kind of started wrapping it all together as he does really well. And yeah, not my favorite, but I still think it was really funny. Then, as we brought up last week, because I was anime mood after Attack on Titan, I was like, I gotta find something really good. Started Vinland Saga. I am now in season 2 of Vinland Saga, episode 5.
Dang.
Holy crap, dude. This is like, it's like that, like I was talking about with Spider-Man. It's just quality the whole time. It is, like I said last time, it is a little slow to start. And I felt like even kind of through it, it doesn't rush through anything. It doesn't have like the big moments, but it subverts expectations. Like every time I expect something to happen, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, oh nope, that just changed. What just happened? Who is this? What is going on? Like, it changes a lot and kind of just goes through a different kind of way of telling this kind of revenge story. It's very, very interesting. The art is so good in it. Like, there are only a few times that they kind of get that kind of background weird, quick art. I feel like most of it is very, very consistent, really, 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 really good. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything negative about this show so far. Like, it's just it's that slower pace, but it's satisfying the whole thing. I'm never like, I feel like there's one episode that I could be considered filler, but it felt also kind of, it grew the world. Like, it didn't progress the story, but it still grew the world, and I felt like very, very interesting. So yeah, can't speak highly enough for it. You guys should definitely check it out. There's only 2 seasons, and then next year is supposed to be the last season, I believe. So yeah, super, super good. Then, as Johnny brought up earlier, I watched a documentary. It was about David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived, is a documentary on HBO. It's about, which I had heard before. It's the stuntman for Daniel Radcliffe in the final Harry Potter movie. He there was an accident that ended up paralyzing him for life. So like, he was this up and coming stunt performer. I think he was 18 or 19 at the time. Uh, like, they just show videos. It's like Johnny said, it is the absolute contrast to what the Boogie documentary was. Like, this is the circumstance of like the incident rather than choices. Like, it's just out of his control. This accident happened because someone either was negligent or something changed. It was basically like, it was a stunt where he was being pulled back into a cushion, and they had done it before, the day before, and they kept going up. So they had they would go up 10 pounds of pressure for the PSI machine to pull him back. And the day before, they would safely go up the increments. And then the next day they came back to do it. Something had changed. And like, they don't show it. They show like the beginning of the pull, and then it goes to the interview with like one of the other stuntmen for Daniel Radcliffe. And he was like, I've never seen a human being move that fast in my entire life. And you can see like the initial tug, and you're like it basically, I think, snapped his neck here because his torso went back and just like head just broke. And like, he hits the wall, and he's like, my neck's broken. I can feel it right here. Like, and so like from there on, he can only move his arms. And it's just one of those like Daniel Radcliffe said, because Daniel Radcliffe initially was going to direct this, because he, it's really heartbreaking, actually. Like, I definitely, the emotion in this is super high, especially for someone like me who grew up with these Harry Potter films and like are so familiar with these characters. Not the stunt crew. This was the first time like I said, I had heard the story but didn't know really what happened. So this being done was, I feel like, very important. And man, it's just really, really heavy. So Daniel Radcliffe was going to direct it, and he had spent 2 years filming stuff, and then he was like, I'm not doing this justice. I don't really know what I'm doing in this sense. So he took it to a director, and the guy was like, yeah, if you want to do this right, make it look like a film, make it good, we need to redo everything. So it took like 6 years they've been doing this, basically. And he talked, there's this one point in the interview after the incident happens, because it's literally on the last movie. It's like a scene halfway through the last movie. These people had grown up. He started off, and I think he had done one, I forget what movie it was. Oh, it was Lost in Space with that old one, Gary Oldman. He had done the stunts for the little kid in that. And so that stunt head coordinator guy ended up meeting back with him later on before Harry Potter, and he was just Harry Potter throughout. Like he was the main stunt guy for Danny Radcliffe through the whole thing. So they became best friends. Like they became developed basically a brother relationship. Like Danny Radcliffe's an only child. And he was like, this was like having an older brother. This is so awesome. And so it definitely hit him super, super hard. And so, like I said, like trying to get to this point of the line he said, he was like, it was one of those things where it's an incident that happens at like just a freak accident that's so heartbreaking, but you're like, okay, this is what we live with and we move forward. And it's like, it just keeps snowballing one thing after another. He's apparently in this 1% of people who get with spinal surgeries, literally 1% out of all spinal surgeries get a cyst, and he got a cyst. So it just like builds up with pressure, blocks a nerve. So he starts losing feeling in this hand. And it's like, it just kind of leads to the point where he's like, I don't know how far this is going to go and how much it's going to paralyze me. It's like, it's not a done deal. It's just a continuation of things they're trying to work on and just the absolute pain that he's having to live in. But the craziest thing about this whole thing, and it kind of encapsulates in this one little story between after the incident happens, because he's just kind of this positive guy. Like he's like the coach and the leader of all the young kids. Like he took Daniel Radcliffe. It's a pretty funny scene in the if you've seen the first movie, whenever Daniel's like whenever Harry Potter is first learning about Quidditch and he goes and he hits the bludger whenever the guy's telling him about all the rules and everything. It's a very the scene he goes through like swords on a castle wall, whatever. Whenever they're first filming that, Daniel Radcliffe's doing it, and everyone's just kind of like, oh, like he looks really awkward swinging that bat. And Daniel was like, yeah, I wasn't the most coordinated of kids. And so David took him. He was like, all right, we're going to take you for a few weeks and I'm going to teach you stunt stuff. And we're going to like teach you how to use your body and everything. So he's just very, very guiding and everything like that. And just such a positive person. So it gets to the point where his mom, after the incident, this is like kind of encapsulates the kind of person that he was. After the incident, his mom asked him, he's like, so what are we going to do? Are we going to like pursue legal things? We need to find out whose actual fault this was. He's like, absolutely not. Like after his life had just been drastically changed. I don't want to use the word ruined because that just feels so final. Like
Yeah.
and I mean, genuinely, yes, you ruined that life that he had, and he now has this very disabled life now. But he was like, absolutely not. He's like, why would I want to ruin someone else's life when mine's been ruined? And like that was the last thing he said about it. You're like, holy. And I'm not doing it justice in the slightest. Like the director of this did an absolutely phenomenal job. This is an excellent documentary, very well shot, very well paced and everything. But it's just like, and that's his attitude through it. And you see him struggle through times. But I mean, like, of course, like he wakes up,
Yeah.
like when he's getting up and trying to like get his stuff doing, his body's just shaking from pain of like trying to get out of these positions and stuff. And like, and man, it just goes through all the characters and all the people that were involved. And it's just, and they all meet up at the end, kind of near the end of the documentary. And they're talking about like this shadow that is over this life of theirs. Like you think, like I've always thought about, like I heard about the incident. I was like, oh man, that is terrible,
Yeah.
tragic. But like, they talk about it, these three, because he had three stuntmen and then Daniel Radcliffe, and they were talking, they're like, yeah, they're, one of the guys was like, yeah, I just watched them for the first time and since they came out with my kids because there's such a shadow over it. I don't ever want to think about that time. And I'm like, holy, he was like, they're excellent films, but yeah, and that's like to think of that's what lays over them, and they have this kind of over talking point of where Daniel Radcliffe's it's showing scenes from the last movie and talking about where his mindset was after this, and he's like, what do you do with this? It's so difficult, and it just continues to get difficult. So it's very, very, very impressive documentary. Impressive human being, dude. It was crazy. Like that was what was most inspiring. Just like this guy had been beaten down so much further, and like it's so strange watching the Boogie documentary, babe. Because I said no sympathy. I literally have very little sympathy or no sympathy at all, because like this just happened to this guy, and he moves forward in life in this positive manner of like, I'm going to do my best. Like even all the stunt people that are with him, the two stunt guys started their own business of trying to make stunts safer with pulleys and stuff like that. Like that's what their work is now. And I'm like, that's such a positive and impressive thing, especially for this, but super, super hard documentary to watch. Like I was just pacing my living room for a while, just trying to like get my brain wrapped around all of that and try and get out of that. Cause it's just like, what do you do? Like there's like, what do you do after you watch something like that and learn that kind of information? It's like, there's people that live that life. And it's like, I guess just live your life, do the best you can. I don't know. It's such a difficult, I don't know. I always find that hard to see whenever people were in positions like that. I'm like, I feel simultaneously strangely guilty in the sense, but also responsible of doing something or saying something. I don't know. So it was very, very powerful and very, very good. But yeah, just impressive human being. Yeah, so that's a documentary I watched. And the last thing I watched, I did watch Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the new Netflix animated series. Absolutely awesome. I finished it last night. Um, I was pleasantly surprised because I thought when it starts, I was like, oh, this is just the movie. I didn't realize that. And so it's 8 episodes, but it's not. Spoilers. Very, very, very interesting. And I liked where they went with it. Super funny. Love they got all the cast back and the art is super fun and exciting, but very, very good show. But yeah, that's all I watched.
Sweet.
Nice.
Johnny, what have you been up to?
Let's see. So I just got back from watching Hunger Games,
Oh yeah.
Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I literally finished the book 30 minutes before I went to go
Oh
watch
my
it.
gosh.
Yeah. And like I have been listening to this book all week. It was a little hard to get into the first like 2-3 chapters, and then eventually, like once I realized how close the movie was, because this is my girlfriend's like one of her favorite series. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, play Minecraft, and just listen to this book. Turned out really good. Like I had never listened to Hunger Games before. I do not remember any of the Jennifer Lawrence movies at all. So this being a prequel actually helped out with that because it actually explained like what's going on. This is a prequel about the president of the Katniss Everdeen books, movies, media, and Coriolanus Snow. But as I said, this isn't really like fully on him. He is the main character, but it is also like on how the Hunger Games originated in a way, and everything that they like he involved in it, and how it is later on in the I guess the Katniss arc of it. So that was really cool. Showing, because I had seen it, but I didn't understand anything pretty much. I don't remember. And it was like, okay, so these guys are rich, these people are poor, they hate each other, they're putting each other in like war or in a what is it, battle royale? In a battle royale. But this actually made sense, and that's me talking about the book. When I went into the movie, like I said, I finished the book 30 minutes before the movie started, and today's actually me and Ari's anniversary, so I was like, okay, we'll go to IMAX, we'll go see this. It was actually exceeded my expectations. It made the book, like what I didn't like in the book, the movie made it entirely like better. But I can see that like they did leave out some of the previous stuff, so maybe there's going to be a prequel. But I what I'm trying to say is, even if you've never seen the Hunger Games or don't know anything of it, you can go into this movie and enjoy it. It is a book movie. I don't know if that makes sense because the production of book movies. Main character is amazing. All the people who played the main characters are really good. The only like lowball parts on it, I think, are the tributes actors, and it's just that they kind of fall a little flat, but it no pun intended. Just kidding. But the thing is that but you don't see much of them because it's not fully about that. So Peter Dinklage did amazing, Viola Davis did amazing. It's really good. So that's pretty much what I've watched. Kind of going through the Saw movies as well. So we're on Saw 3 at the moment.
Just in time for the holidays.
Just in time for the holidays. And I guess the only anime I'm watching right now is Yu Yu Hakusho, and I'm on the Dark Tournament arc.
One would say the best tournament arc.
Oh, okay.
Of all tournament
arcs? Our tournament arcs.
If we had a
it's really good.
A tournament of tournament arcs, that would be the number one seed.
We should do that one day. Do the tier lists of tournament arcs.
All right, Jared, you got anything for us?
Yeah, mainly YouTube because we talked about Blue Beetle, and then I just talked about anime this afternoon. So if you want to hear what I have to say about anime, you can follow the link that I'll uh, provide. But first, because of the boogie stuff, there's a lot of other controversies, especially with Sniper Wolf. And I watched Turkey Tom and Internet Archivist video on that, and just kind of her downfall right now, and just everything she's been going through and all her controversies. Both videos are really well done. But a lot of YouTube controversy right now, especially because Johnny was telling me about the completionist Gerard.
Oh yeah,
and his controversy right now. The next thing I watched was kind of a went over the career of Nujabes. This was by Volkgeist, and it just went over his career and what an impact he had on hip hop, not only in Japan but everywhere. Especially when Samurai Champloo came out, everyone was digging that soundtrack.
That's awesome.
But it just showed in what kind of guy he was. He was just always kind of a positive guy, and he wanted that to come through into his music. And you can hear it in a lot of his songs, kind of just pretty positive. The next thing I watched was Horse's video about how to perform an exorcist. He just kind of actually went through the actual process. It was interesting from him because he's not really religious, but he totally did it non-biased look at it, and he just gave you the information, which I always appreciate. I hate when YouTubers are like, oh yeah, we support whatever you believe, and they're like they're totally bash whatever they're talking about. I'm like, why you even say that? Like, just be honest. The next thing I watched was a YouTuber called Grief, and he did the complete body horror iceberg, just going over all the media that has to deal with like body horror. A lot of it apparently I've seen. So it was a good video, but I've seen most of it, so it didn't tell me anything new.
What is like the first body horror? Is it that one from like Salvador Dali where they cut the eye? Is that considered body horror?
Yeah. Even if it's not, a lot of the entries on this iceberg, I don't even think was body horror. It was just horror. But he does go through a lot of it. Like he went, there's some random stuff like the run of Joker when he cuts off his face and then staples it back. It goes from that to just like YouTube stuff and
New 52 Joker.
Yeah, and then like Cronenberg, of course, was on there peppered throughout.
What was your first body horror, Jared?
Yeah, there was a lot of Japanese. What was my first?
Yeah. Mine was Steven Universe when his fingers turned into little cats.
That was like the first entry. Mine was like the Courage the Cowardly Dog stuff.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Mine was The Fly, guys. Come on.
Oh, The Fly was actually pretty gruesome.
But that was a fun list or iceberg. Another kind of video on like real events was Timmy 2 Cents. His video on Susan, my son shut up Columbine, the mother of one of the Columbine shooters, and how she gave a TED talk, and it's the worst TED talk ever because it's kind of just like kind of deflecting blame on her part on all of this. So apparently there's a lot of families kind of giving her warnings like, dude, your son's kind of, you need to keep an eye on him, that like he's threatening kids.
Jeez.
A lot of threats on the internet that people have seen and stuff like that. Like, and then she's saying that like, oh, there's no way to tell what your kids are thinking or how they're gonna turn out. And everyone's like, no, you crazy lady, like you're the parent, you can obviously tell.
Yeah.
She's just deflecting, and she gave a TED talk of just like you can't know the unknowable, and everyone's like, you're full of crap, lady. Like, just do a little better. Like,
How did
raising your
she
kid.
get to be on a TED Talk?
Yeah.
She did a lot of PR stuff after Columbine,
Uh,
and so she had her little 15 minutes, I guess, and then
Sorry for being ignorant on this, but are the Columbine shooters like, were they taken prisoner or are they alive or anything?
No,
it was a like
killed
a homicide
themselves.
suicide
Oh, okay.
situation. But yeah, it was just a lot of deflection on her part, and how everyone's just like, you just gotta admit you weren't a good parent. Like I mentioned last time, Wendigoon kind of announced that he was going to be on 2 different podcasts. The one with there was just an update with the one with Meat Cannon. They still haven't put one up. I did watch the one he put up with the official podcast guys. So like Charlie or Moist Critical and Jackson of that podcast. Their podcast called The Red Thread. They talked about the Goat Man, because their whole thing is about cryptids. So they were talking about the Goat Man. Very interesting podcast. I enjoyed it. Just a good dynamic between those 3 guys. And then the last thing I watched was this YouTuber called Liz the Lass, and she just talked about her experience playing all the Pikmin games, like all 4 of them. It was just a nice, like, I guess, cozy, like, YouTube video, and just talking about her experience with Pikmin and how fun it was, and just like her experience with it.
Didn't Pikmin 4 get nominated for some Game of the Year award? It
Yeah.
was one of the categories. Can't remember which one. Probably puzzle or something, I guess.
But that's all I watched. Just a bunch
The
of
Throwing
YouTube-
Vegetable Man Award.
Flower Head Award.
All right. I guess I should plug EFAP. It's on Mahler's channel. They're the ones who did the boogie analysis. So if you want to watch 6 hours of booginess, you can head over there and watch their channel. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this time. Any last words from you guys?
I had one, and then I forgot what it was.
Ah, shoot.
I know. Should have made a note.
Any place you want people to find you, Johnny, streaming or something?
What's your address, Johnny?
Yeah. Occasionally we do some podcasts too. Me and Michael, Select Your Player. Other than that, you can find me on Johnny Bumpkins anywhere. Twitch, Instagram. It's X now. And my
X.
And he's falling apart here.
I'm falling apart here. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
I guess we should say Happy Thanksgiving. 'Cause I
True.
think this is the
That's
last
next
time
week.
we'll see this. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not easy.
And it's our annual Friendsgiving. So
Happy holiday.
we enjoy that. Yeah. Have a good holiday from us. Like, subscribe, and notify yourself for even more good stuff. And we will see you next time. Bye.
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 Recording stopped.